Hey everybody, it's me, Keith, again. Welcome to April, VTS14. That's right, 14 of these bad boys. It's good stuff, it's good stuff. I'm thrilled to be with you guys again. For you new folks, welcome aboard. For you folks who stuck around, thanks. It's cool that you stuck around. Gonna get right into it this month. I want to try and shorten up these videos and get rid of the fluff because they've been running kind of long because I've been chattering too much. And so what I want to try and do is get right down into the business of the task at hand, as it were. Anyhow, before I get too busy into not being chatty and happy, wanted to just say thanks for being a part of all this. Thanks for being involved in the VTS. I hope it's been a real blessing to those of you who've been a part of it. And for those of you who are just joining up, I hope you get a lot out of it. Okay, this month we're going to continue in our conversation about acting, and specifically about how to choose and plan your scenes with good acting choices. If you take a look at VTS 12 and VTS 13, if you don't have those and you're a new person, you need to get them. You definitely need to get them. I mean, I don't really want to say that you need to get anything of mine, but if you're going to understand this one, you need to get 12 and 13, because I think there's some stuff there that isn't being covered anywhere else in animation training anywhere. Personally, the reason why I came up with this stuff is because I couldn't find it anywhere else. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough. Maybe I'm just a lazy slob. Maybe I'm just arrogant. I don't know. Could be all of them. But anyways, you need 12 and 13, because what we're going to do today in 14 is I'm going to show you what 12 and 13 those principles look like. Okay, for a quick recap, in VTS 12, we talked about what it means to define the emotional need of your character and then let all your performance choices grow out of that. Specifically, we come right down to this basic truth, which is every character in a scene in a movie wants something that they can't have. Okay, that moment, or in a larger sense, they want something in that moment that they can't have. How do they feel about that? From that feeling, you will drive their emotions and their body gestures and their body language and also their decisions. Okay, so that's pretty key there. In 13, we talked about, okay, how do we make unique poses that are unique to the character? So we talked about defining the character. Okay, their internal tempo, the basic adjectives to describe their default emotional state, physical expressions of how they are by default, and then on top of that, how to choose poses that work in the moment by kind of processing it, putting it all together in such a way as you take a look at an abstract expression of an emotion, coupled with the business necessary for the scene, coupled with unique expression of the character's physicality, gives you unique poses. Okay, that's a really quick 3-minute recap of what it took me about an hour and a half to cover in those two videos. So that's just a refresher. If you need to, go back and watch those. So what are we going to do this month? This month, I'm going to take one scene from my short film that I'm developing, and I'm going to animate it for you guys. Now, we're going to do this over a couple of months, okay? This month, we're going to take a look at planning, how I plan the shot, okay? So we're going to look at the story reel for the sequence, for leading up to it, and a couple shots in front and behind it to give a sense of context. I'm going to show you my thumbnail. I'm going to show you my thought process. I'm going to show you my character definitions. I'm going to show you things that I decided not to do and why I decided not to do them in exchange for how I did them. And this is how I break down the dialogue and work out the energy and choose where to put a pose and where not to put a pose. It's all about the planning of the shot, okay? So this is going to be one of those talk you through my thought processes, okay? We're going to have a lot of scans. We're going to have some stuff to look at so you can kind of understand it. I will talk my way through it. So there'll be some video of me up in the corner, and that way you'll be able to see me explain what was on my mind as I went through these things. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover this month. Next month, we're going to get into actually how do we go ahead and pose that out. Okay, in my blocking, because I want to show us how we block things as well. Okay, so that's next month. We'll get into blocking, and then I think after we get this planned and blocked, we'll go ahead and choose another scene and do it again, to kind of repeat the process in a different way with a slightly different performance, so that way we have an understanding of how this can be applied across different kinds of performance needs. Okay, so we're going to do a lot of showing in the next couple of months, and it's going to be really good. I think it's going to be fun. I'm going to have fun doing it because I'm going to actually be animating some stuff from my short film. Ooh, yeah. You got to understand, I've been working on this thing for 2+ years, and I haven't really got anything animated yet. Got lots of other things figured out, but I've been waiting for the right time to animate it. Now is the right time. Let's begin. All right, let's get right into it. First thing I want to do for you is I want to play the little the storyboard clip, the story reel for this little section. Give you a little background. This is a story about a bit of a loser. Okay, his name is Murray Lipinski, a non-heroic name for a non-heroic hero. Anyways, this is a story about a fellow who wishes he could get his shot to prove himself. Okay, to be out of the limelight, out of the shadows of his past failures, and to really just finally break through and realize his life's dreams of being a hero. Okay, so in this scene that's coming up, let me set the table for you. Murray's been called into the control panel, or the control room, control panel. I'm sitting, lots of web stuff. Anyways, called in the control room because there's a call on the line from his chief, okay? It's his boss. His boss is calling him with a new assignment. Now, Murray wants to make a good impression because he wants to get out of this dead-end part of the job that he's in, and he wants to get a good assignment. And so he's hoping that this is his chance. So he wants to impress his boss, okay? So Murray and his robot assistant, Donut, that's his name, love the name, they walk into the control room. Murray turns on the screen, up comes the boss, and here we go. So let's go ahead and watch this.
Space Marshal Murray Lipinski reporting, sir.
Save it for the parade, Lipinski. We got bigger fish to fry.
Space Marshal Murray Lipinski reporting, sir.
Save it for the parade, Lipinski. We got bigger fish to fry.
Okay, pretty self-explanatory. First thing you'll have to do is forgive the storyboards. The storyboard artist, not very good. In fact, if I could, I'd fire him. Anyways, but it gets the idea across. My thinking about this scene is I didn't think too deeply into it. I knew that, when you're doing boarding, you don't get too much into the business of the scene. You're just trying to get the narrative flow working, at least for me anyways. I try and get the major blocks working. So there's aspects of Murray's personality that I want to explore in animating the scene. Okay, the scene that we're going to animate, that we're going to break down and work through here, is the one where he says, Space Marshal Murray Lipinski reporting, sir. Or something to that effect. That's the scene that we're going to animate. Okay, well, I wanted to show you the context around it because context is king. All right, you can't just go animate a shot any old way you want. You have to make it work within the larger story. Narrative is definitely the master. Animation is the servant of the narrative. Okay, it's important to remember. So let's not get too crazy over animating something that doesn't fit the rest of the narrative. So that's why I show you the context. Okay, exploring aspects of his personality, there's some things I just didn't do. I want to show some of his eagerness. I want to show some of these other things involved in him, but I got the major beats worked out. He and Donut walk into the room, business. We see the screen, standing by, business. Okay, not much there. Okay, presses the button, business. Up comes the boss, business. Murray then gets into performance. Okay, this is where he's going to really try and put on a good show for the boss. All right. And of course, the boss has heard a million of these different attempts in the past, and in his mind's already made up. Murray is a loser. He's a guy who you can't trust with any big assignments. Just stick him in the back corner, give him easy to do assignments like handing out parking tickets, and he'll be fine. Okay? So the boss, unfortunately, has a job that's a little bit bigger than he'd like to give to Murray, but he's trying to keep it as simple as possible. Okay, that's all I'm going to give you as far as the narrative on this story. I want you guys to actually watch the film when it's done in 17 years or whenever it's done. Okay, so let's learn some things about breaking down who Murray is. Okay, here's some aspects of his character. I'm looking at my notes because I don't have these things super memorized. I do, but I want to work off the notes. Okay, there are certain baseline adjectives that describe Murray as a character. Okay, the first is that he's eager. Okay, he's hopeful and he's eager. He wants to do a good job. He wants to be the hero. He wants to be the guy who gets the ball at the last minute and shoots it and wins the game for the team, okay? And another metaphor. So he wants to be that guy. He wants to be the go-to guy who all the tough assignments come to him and he handles it, okay? He grew up dreaming that that's what he was going to be. So eager, okay? He's definitely eager to do a good job, to try and do a good job, to impress people, to do a good job. The problem is that the other thing that describes Murray is that he's bumbling. He has the coordination of a head of cabbage. In fact, I would say that a head of cabbage probably has better coordination than Murray. He's a klutz. He's not in the greatest physical shape. He's not gifted in a physical sort of way. So he's not the sharpest pencil in the box. So he just doesn't have the natural gifted tools to make him a hero. Okay? So as he tries to do things, and in the short, there's lots of things where we explore all the things in the past, or many of the things in the past, that have cemented Murray's status in his boss's mind. So, he's bumbling and he's eager. In and of itself, that's a fairly shallow description of a character. Okay? Because cartoons are filled with bumbling, eager people. Okay? The thing that makes Murray dimensional, in my mind, that makes him appealing and someone you could root for, is that he's not ignorant. He is self-aware. He knows that he's too eager, and he knows that he's bumbling, and he knows what people think of him. He is not a happy idiot, okay? He's not Jimmy the Idiot Boy. He's not dopey. And he's not even quite as clueless as Flick in A Bug's Life from Pixar, okay? Flick is a good character who sometimes has awareness about how much of a screw-up he is, but it takes a while for him to kind of get it, okay? Murray is one of those guys who knows in an instant when he's messed up. He knows when it's not working, okay? So he's appealing in that sense because that's all of us, aren't we? I mean, we all know, oh, geez, I just blew that. We don't normally wait. What do you mean I ran over the baby kitten? No, we know when we run over the baby kitten, when we do it, and we feel terrible about it. So that's part of Murray, okay? Those are his baseline adjectives that describe his character. He's eager, he's bumbling, and he's self-aware. Those are wonderful combinations for some really fun performance, if I say so myself. What about his description? Okay, remember we talked about defining his physicality of a character, defining the physicality of a character. These are questions that need to be asked. I, as the director of this short, am asking these questions. So I have decided that rather than go down some fairly typical paths for a character who's overweight, I don't want the big bumbling Baloo who's slow and swaggering and got a lot of, nice weight and floppy overlap and stuff. That's fine, it's fun, it's valid, but it's not quite Murray. And I also don't want to go for the light on his feet fat guy, okay, because that's overdone as well, in my opinion. I'm not trying to do anything that's like too crazy as far as like, oh, look, he's a fat guy, but he's light on his feet. Ooh, I'm tricking you. No, we're not doing any of that. Murray is a guy who is definitely overweight, okay? He's definitely not gifted in a physical sense. So he has weight. However, because he's eager and because he wants to do things, I gave him a higher center of gravity or a higher power center, okay? His shoulders are up, his elbows will be up, his arms will be up sometimes. So when he walks, it's like he's going somewhere with a purpose. And that's true. Everywhere in his life he goes with a purpose. Now when he gets there, he screws it up, but he always turns on the hope, goes back to it, and goes right toward it. So he's going to be a little bit up, okay? His tempo, okay? Remember, another aspect of defining the character is defining their internal tempo is slightly higher, but not frenetic, okay? He's not going to be a Speedy Gonzalez kind of guy, but he's also not going to be a big, lumbering, kind of slow guy like Sully in Monsters Incorporated. He's going to be slightly quick for a big guy, okay? And that's only in the sense that his mind is racing ahead. He's eager, so I want to make sure that comes out in his physical expression of personality. So, I've set the scene for you. I have set who he is as a character emotionally. I have set who he is as a character physically. Now let's get back into the scene aspect of this and ask some of the questions that come from like VTS 12. Okay, here's the scene. The scene is, up comes the boss. Murray wants to impress the boss. Okay? He wants to do something that makes the boss forget all the past failures behind him and think, you know what, this guy might be able to handle this job. So that's Murray's goal. That's what he wants. Okay? All characters in a good story are defined by their want. And in this scene, Murray wants to make a great impression on the chief. Now, I'm sure he's tried lots of different ways, but this time he's decided to go with ultra military sharpness. Reporting for duty, sir. He wants to be snappy in case the chief is into that sort of thing. Okay? Because he knows he's a bit of a slob, so he figures, well, if I sharpen up and if I, do the salute just right and all that stuff, I'll get it. I'll make an impression. I'll show him, put my jaw out, even though I don't have a jaw. He doesn't. It's buried in the rolls of George Lucas' neck. And put my jaw out and say, I can be that guy. He tries to strike that heroic, yes, sir, kind of pose, the Marines sort of thing. That's what he's trying to do because he wants to impress the boss. There's a switch in the scene, though. The boss is not impressed. Okay, so the boss isn't impressed. How does Murray react to that? What he wanted is no longer available to him. He can't have it. He wanted to impress the boss. He didn't. What does that mean? Well, if Murray were just bumbling and eager, he would just keep standing there looking like a Benny Hill with a stupid expression on his face, totally oblivious to what's going on around him. But he's not just bumbling and eager. He's bumbling, eager, and self-aware, which means the sting of save it for the parade, Lipinski, he knows he failed. That has to show up, okay? It has to show up. So somewhere inside of him, he has to have this expression of, he goes from this to, oh, that stung. I failed. Okay? So we're going to explore some poses as to how we do that. Okay? So we've got the definition of Murray as a character, definition of the scene, definition of what he wants, and definition of how he feels about what he wants. Okay? When he opens a scene, he feels like he can do it. He's hopeful. I can impress the boss. The boss is not impressed. I didn't impress the boss. Darn it. Okay? So, that's setting the table. These are all questions that, taking the VTS 12 and 13 questions and applying them to this moment. And you notice it's a lot of thought. It's a lot of thought about who this guy is. And it's all about acting. I mean, we haven't even talked about poses yet. We haven't even talked about anything yet, okay? So, once I have these questions answered, these emotional markers, performance ideas are starting to flood to my mind. Okay, they're starting to come they're just making themselves almost, because I'm asking the right questions and I'm giving them good answers. I'm actually, the character, Murray, is almost animating himself. Okay, I have to just express him, but who he is as a character, when I know who he is, if I know him, and I do, then he kind of just comes off the page. And he's coming off the page of my mind, and it was very easy for me to thumbnail out what this is going to be. But before we thumbnail, let me show you how to break down audio. Okay? This is pretty cool stuff. Let's break down the audio on this. All right, let's listen to it again. Just that scene, okay?
Space Marshal Murray Lipinski reporting, sir.
All right. So, let's take a look at this. Here's a scan of just the words on a piece of paper. I write it out on a piece of paper, okay? I get all the words in there and I give myself some room here. What I like to do is chart the energy of the flow of the dialogue, because if you animate off the dialogue, it feels like somebody's talking and somebody's moving, but they're not together. So I like to draw the energy from the dialogue, okay? So what I'll do is I'll chart. In drawing it out, I actually just draw kind of like a little landscape graph of where the energy is coming up, where it rides over, where it tails off, where it goes down into a valley, where it comes up, where it drops down. Just trying to get a sense of the flow of the energy of the thing. Okay? So you'll see here with the new graph on it, this is my graph. You'll see over here it's space, because he goes space. He's sharp. He's right into it. So the energy of that pops up. Okay. Marshall Murray Lipinski is kind of over the top. So it's Space Marshall Murray Lipinski. See how the graph just kind of travels over the top? There's not a lot of little things in there. We try and keep it simple and clean because I think great animation that communicates is simple and clean. So, Space Marshall Murray Lipinski. And then I got a little dip there for reporting, sir. For reporting for duty, sir. Okay? So, Space Marshal Murray Lipinski reporting for duty, sir. It goes up, travels over the top, dips down on just a little bit on reporting for duty, and then pops back up on sir. Okay? And from the beginning, when I storyboarded this thing, he was going to have a sharp, snappy salute on sir. Okay? So, looking at the energy of this, we have definite beats. And I underlined the words that have really strong beats. You have space, reporting, which is not really a strong beat. It's kind of like a sub beat, but I want to mark it out there. So it's like a soft underline. And then sir, which is really strong. Okay? I've basically, just by charting the energy of this thing, I have found my beats. Okay? Good animations like music. Remember the time I played Beethoven and analyzed it? Good animations like music. It has a flow, it has a beat, it has a rhythm. And you want to find the rhythm that's coming from the character. And in this instance, what I have to work with is the audio track. So from the audio track, I have beat 1, space, over the top, Marshall Murray Lipinski. Okay, just kind of holding that beat. Reporting for duty, which is kind of like a downbeat. Sir. Okay? 3 beats. That's not a bad shot. There's a lot there to work with. Okay, so we got 1 beat, space. 2 beats, reporting for duty. 3 beats, sir, with the salute. Okay? That's what's in the boards, that's what's in the audio, that's what we've got. I can figure this stuff out. Now, I can also add 1 pre-beat, or like a beat A, which is, I'm going to add here, is before. It's like it's showing his state of him waiting for the screen to come up, and then, oh, there he is. So you have to go from something to something. I can't just start the scene with him up, space. You got to start from somewhere else, and then you got to go, space. So, beat 1, I'll get this right. Beat 1, waiting. Beat 2, space. Beat 3, reporting. Beat 4, ta-da, 4 gives us sir. Okay, so that's how I break down dialogue. Another thing that I've been taught, which sometimes comes in handy, is to just kind of act it out or baton it, like you're a conductor. Just listen to it and watch your hand. Just kind of act it out, puppet it. Okay, Space Marshal Murray Lipinski reporting for duty, sir. You can do that too. You can just kind of get a sense of it like you're conducting an orchestra. If you're more musically minded, or if you're a puppet-minded person, I work with a really, really fantastically experienced and talented Henson puppeteer, and she's very. You can see the puppet stuff in her animation. That's really fantastic. And my animation director also does the little hand puppet thing too. And whatever it takes, just find the energy, find your beats. That's really what we're trying to do in breaking down the dialogue. I share this way with you in case it helps you. I'm just, again, trying to graph growing energy, holding energy, descending energy, whether it bursts or collapses, whether it grows, whether it cascades out. Really, there's just some real simple things about defining the energy of it in graphing it. Graphing it just helps me kind of feel it. This also helps me feel it. Doing the baton wave helps me feel it. Okay, here's my thumbnails. At first, it looks kind of like there's making some sense. You'll see that there's 2 different colors, and I'll explain what I'm trying to do there. First thing I like to do when I'm thumbnailing is once I figure out and I chart out my graph as to what's in the scene, I want to figure out, okay, what major keys, what key positions am I going to have for those major beats, okay? And then after I figure out what I want for those positions, I kind of refine them, or I clean them up, or I push them a little bit farther. And then I'll also think about the breakdowns as to how I move them in and out of that position, okay? So, this first one, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, we'll do a zoom up on it, is first one where he's waiting for the screen to come on, okay? The expression on his face is a little too confused, All right, the line of action's okay. I like the C curve to the screen left. I like, you notice his energy, his pose, that high center of power there with his elbows up and his hands up a bit. And so he's kind of a little up and tense. But you'll notice with the orange pencil, I kind of redrew the face, and I made a note that I wanted it to be more hopeful and you know, less confused. All right, so that was the first beat. That corresponds with just opening the scene. The second darker one underneath there, you'll see, is marked for space. And I'm reversing the line. And you want to talk about reversal of line of action and all these other things, go back and get, you know, VTS 1 through 11, where I talk about the mechanics of all this stuff. And if some folks are wondering, well, why are you talking about all this stuff? Because when I got to this point, I don't want to have to explain it. So go back and get that stuff. If you don't have it, or if you don't know what I'm talking about, go get that stuff. I've explained all this. Okay? So anyways, I'm reversing the line really strong in that pose. I got him up, I got the elbows down, and I've got him, you know, a good change of expression in the face. Stern. That's right. I'm gonna be the guy. All right? What you want between these key positions is you want definite changes. So you reverse the line of action is a good way to do it. Getting the elbows back down a little bit, you know, from his, oh, there he is. It's a good change, okay? And so you'll see that there's like a little orange drawing in between them, and that's the breakdown. So what I'm trying to do here is from this to this, is I don't want to do just this to this. I want to squash and stretch in out of that, okay? Because the style of the animation for this short, just so I should let you guys know, is I'm going to animate it on 2s mostly. Occasionally I'll animate on 1s. For those of you who don't know what that means, meaning how long did you leave a drawing exposed for? Did you leave it exposed for 1 frame or 2 frames? Okay, a lot of the stuff is 2 frames, but sometimes for action things you needed 1 frame. So I'm going to be mixing that up. It's not typical for CG. CG is usually all on 1s, okay? The style of motion for this short is also going to be highly influenced by traditional hand-drawn. So it's going to be a bit more cartoony, a little bit broader than some of the subtler stuff I've been working on at work. Why? Because I like cartoons. Okay, so anyways, back to the orange drawing in between them. I went back and figured out the breakdown on this. So I want to go from this to this to this. You notice the shape change is a squash and stretch into it, okay? Again, talking about some things we talked about in the past. All right, so that's up there for Space Marshal Murray Lipinski. He's holding that. Remember on our chart for our energy, he hits that and he holds it over the top. So he's what he's going to do. He's going to hold it over the top. We're not going to hit little head hits or a bunch of little things for Space Marshal Murray Lipinski. We're not going to do that. Don't bob the head for every syllable, okay? That's crazy. It's too noisy, it's chattering, you just don't need to do it. So it's, oh, there he is. So Space Marshal Murray Lipinski. And then the next one, the next beat is reporting for duty. And I want him to kind of do a little, you know me, guy, you can trust me, boss. So he leans his head into it a little bit. And the line goes from this to this a little bit. Again, a little bit of reversal. Not a big reversal because the shift in the audio isn't that big. Remember the energy chart didn't go down that much. It did go down, but it wasn't like a huge drop off. So I wanna scale the adjustment to the change in the character accordingly. Okay? So Space Marshal Murray Lipinski reporting for duty, sir. So the reporting for duty is gonna be like one of those, you know me. He's going to kind of lean into it, little conspiratorial smile and look up. Yep, you betcha. That's right, boss. It's kind of that feeling, okay? So again, I didn't like the head turn on the original drawing. The thumbnail's kind of weak. It got the idea across, but then I went back with the orange pencil and really worked out just how far I wanted to turn the head and just, you know, the kind of angle I want. It's not super tight because once I get into Maya with the puppet, which we'll do next month, you'll see that I'll refine the idea even more and really start nailing it down so that it works with the puppet in the scene, okay? I don't want to be held hostage by these thumbnails, but I also don't want to leave anything underexplored or underexplained. Okay, so forward, and then the big hit is sir. Okay, so he comes up, sir. And in that, I'm exploring, there's some other orange drawings in there that you'll see that, and I'll highlight those that kind of explore the sequence of how I'm going to drag up into that. Because the big note is when he hits Sir, it's got to snap up into it. And so I'm taking a look at how he's going to do it. I'm looking at how he's going to bend his, he's going to go from this, to this, and how he'll bend his back, the head will come down. It's just kind of building overlap right into it. And then all of it kind of snaps up and hits it really hard. I want to give that sense of the whiplash action working from his hips up through his head, and then the hand also. So the elbow is going to kind of come up, the hand's going to drag, and that's going to come up like so. So you get this really nice, sir, and it's a fun, snappy motion that's got a lot of power to it, and it's really neat, and it's like he's really, really thought this through. There's a problem, though. Murray can't get anything right, remember? Okay, we've got the eager part of his personality down. And this is where in storyboarding I didn't explore this as much as I wanted to, but I figured I knew I'd get to it when I animated. Remember, he's eager and he's bumbling. Well, if he's bumbling, is he going to get the salute right? No. You don't salute with your left hand. That's just, anybody who's been in the military knows, you don't salute with your left hand. You salute with your right hand. Of course, if you take a look at it, which hand is Murray saluting with? The left. So he screwed it up. It's good old Murray. Eager but bumbling. So he comes up. While he's there, he notices, uh-oh, that's my left hand. Now the drawing that I have there has some notes underneath that it's should be more of a hold, but again, this is where I don't want to become a prisoner of my thumbnails, but I wanted to get the expression, the change there. There's a little subbeat that I'm adding here that wasn't in the dialogue. Okay? This is what we call plussing the scene. Don't just do the boards when the boards come to you. Okay? If you're just animating the storyboards, I don't think you're doing a job as an animator. Now, sometimes if you're in a really, really rush production where you're doing a lot of footage and you got to get a lot of stuff done, just getting the boards done well is oftentimes a big challenge. But if you got time, and I do on this short, definitely take the time to plus the scene. Make it better than what the board idea is. The board idea is he kind of comes up and he gets the salute right, and then he's kind of crestfallen. It's got to be better. Okay? So in this, he gets the salute wrong. That's more in character with him. And then there's a little subbeat where he's like, ooh, and I got to do enough of a change in the body, and I'll explore that next week as I start building it out so we get a sense of how much of a change in the body needs to happen to get that read. But we see that there's like a ooh, and there's a crack in his armor because he's aware. He's not just bumbling and stupid. He's aware. I screwed it up. So what he tries to do really quick is a switch. Okay? And you notice that again, he hits that switch and now he's not even, he's avoiding eye contact. It's difficult to draw the eye lines for me in thumbnails because I'm just not good at drawing. But I'm trying to give the sense that he's not looking at the chief anymore, because what do we do when we mess up? Do we look at people? Especially when we try and cover up for it. We try and behave like, no, nothing happened. I'm gonna look somewhere else. Not at the chief. Maybe you didn't see that. Of course the chief saw it. The chief knew right away. Idiot's saluting with his left hand. So we explore the breakdown on that, where he kind of comes down out of it. I want to get some change of shape. He kind of comes down out of it and snaps back up. So we're going to do a repeat of the snap move, but we're going to do it on the other side. Okay? So he's up there, not looking at the boss. Maybe I recovered it. Maybe this one worked. And then, of course, the last pose is him wincing when the chief says, "Save it for the parade, Lipinski." It's his way of saying, listen, shut up. Now, the first way I'll show you an example of how I drew this before. Look at this initial one. I initially had it go from this to this, okay? But it didn't keep the character of him. Remember, we have this higher sense of energy. So I definitely wanted to change him into wincing, but I think it's more fun if he kind of winces and hides under it. And then if you notice, it goes from this to this. It keeps that higher power center, that higher center of energy for him. It's more in tune with his character. And notice, it's not just a duh. Okay, that's cliche. If I had gone from this to duh, he got me, that's cliche. It's not who he is. Remember, the abstract expression of an emotion combined with the business of the scene combined with the physical characteristics and emotional characteristics of your character, gives you unique posing. This last pose is an explanation in one instance of what I'm trying to cover in most of VTS13. Okay? This one pose is the one that I think really gets Murray across. All the other stuff could be any eager character. Okay? I mean, there's aspects to it that are Murray, but this last one is Murray, and only him, at least in this universe. It's the way he handles it. Okay, we got the business of the scene. I'm not looking at the boss because I screwed up. I'm aware of this, I know it, and then now he just stings me, and it flows out of who he is naturally. Okay, so these are the boards that I've worked up, and you see that I'm trying to work some ideas. It's like the line of action. Sometimes I'll reinforce a line of action with the other colored pencil. A lot of times you'll see me, if you take a look at this, and I'm going to include a JPEG of this in the download, so you can just take a look at it, because not that it's any great art, but maybe it helps explore some things. And you see that I'm working energies in and outs, reversing the curves, changing shape, going, stretched to squashed, from wide to skinny, to overlapping some things, and trying to get the energy worked out. And these are all the stuff. This is the stuff that most animation books and topics cover. Okay, you can find lots of information about what goes into these drawings, but I want to explore how they work together with the characteristic of who this character is at this moment, and the acting stuff, and notice how it just all starts blending together. You have to be able to pull the emotional side and the acting side and the physicality side, and then plus also good principles of animation, reversals and changes, and strong line of action, and good clear staging. I mean, I got good clear staging on this. Whether he salutes with the right or left, it's going to be clearly staged. It's clear reading and good timing and all that stuff. Okay, all that stuff is in there. You can't just throw that away and pretend like this is live action. It's animated, so you got to animate it well, but you got to know what to animate well, which is what all this other stuff is. So anyways, that's it for this month. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of looking at things, a lot of processing. That's it. Next month we'll pick up from this point. We'll move forward, and we're going to go right into the computer environment with these things in mind, and you're going to follow me as I translate this into the puppet on the computer. Okay? Okay, I hope that was helpful to you. I hope that in watching me do this stuff, it started to make some sense to you as to how I take these abstract expressions of ideas and this kind of esoteric theory stuff and how I actually apply it. And you'll see I'm pretty loose in application. Sometimes I'll really focus on one thing and I'll totally blow off another. It all depends on what I feel I need for the shot. Sometimes if I feel a shot, I won't consciously think about these things. I'll just know that's exactly what I want to do. I want to do this for the scene. I'll do a few little explorations, make sure I'm not painting myself in a corner. But a lot of times if I'm really feeling the scene, this stuff just kind of flows out of me working. I may not take it down to this level of detail every single time. But if I'm stuck, or if I have a scene that I just can't get my head around at all, this stuff is a lifesaver. Okay, and this is a scene that I did today, which I had an idea what I wanted to do, but I hadn't thought it through very far. As you can tell from the storyboarding is very loose, but it doesn't give you a good idea as to really exploring the character and expressing his personality in really specific ways. And so that's why we went through some of the things we went through today with the thumbnailing and exploring these ideas and why I chose certain things over others. So what does that mean? Next month, okay, we're going to start working on blocking this thing out. What we saw this month, I'm going to get in Maya. And for those folks who are not Maya users, don't worry. It's not going to be like a Maya tutorial. I'm not interested in that. There's plenty of great resources to learn how to use Maya. There's plenty of great resources to use any program out there. I'm not interested in that. I just want to show you how I can take these ideas and refine them with the puppet inside the computer. Because one of the things that you got to keep mindful of is I think you can thumbnail too tightly, to be honest with you. I think some folks are a bit of they're a little bit captive by their thumbnails. And that's why you notice my thumbnails are pretty sloppy. I like them loose because it gives me freedom to refine the drawings, as it were, okay? Because in traditional animation, they're going to thumbnail stuff out and they're going to rough draw it, but that's not what and they'll pencil shoot it, but that's not what they send to their cleanup guys. They tighten it down, they nail down the characters, they refine the poses, they work things over, and they find new things as they go, built off of a great foundation. And that's what I want to try and do with my stuff, is I try and give you thumbnails that give you some foundations, and give me foundations, but then give myself permission to push it, explore it, adjust it, make it better as I go. There does come a point where I pretty much lock things down and I move along, and we're going to get to that as we cover into this section on polish and facial animation and lots of other things that are, down the road several months, okay? So anyways, that's enough of me yappering on. I really do thank you guys for being a part of this. I thank you for your contributions. Your feedback is always great. You guys are really supportive and encouraging. It makes me happy to be knowing that I help you guys, and that I'm opening some doors to some areas of animation that may have been a mystery to you before. And if that's not a mystery, it's nice to know I'm just helping you out, refreshing things that you may have learned. Take what you need, incorporate it into your workflow, but please don't be under the impression that I am any great expert above anybody else. There's lots of ways to do things. This just happens to be my way. It works for me, works for my mindset, helps me figure things out. And if it helps you guys, take what pieces you can. And if something doesn't make sense to you, well, try and figure it out. But if you're just like, well, that's not going to work for me, go ahead and throw it out. There's no single way to do this stuff. So anyways, thanks a bunch. I look forward to seeing you guys next month. All the best, and God bless.